Are you even pulling? Are you on my team? Just represent, pull.
All right, let's go.
Superheroes love to prove their worth, whether it's by saving a bunch of people from a burning building or fighting off a mad titan from outer space who wants to watch half of the universe burn. Proving their worth is something heroes do, and Mjolnir is the standard bearer for worthiness. We've seen Thor and Captain America wield the judgy hammer in the MCU already, but today we're going to focus on some other Marvel characters who may be the most worthy of lifting Mjolnir. On the other hand, if you want to check out the characters who got a hold of Thor's signature weapon and weren't worthy, then head over to our friends at Screen Rant and check out their video, 15 Unworthy Marvel Characters Who Lifted Mjolnir. Beta Ray Bill. If you're more of a casual Marvel fan and only watch the movies, then you most likely have absolutely no idea who Beta Ray Bill is. But he's hinted at in the MCU. Remember Thor Ragnarok when we got a look at the facade of the Grandmaster's palace? One of the statues we saw was of Beta Ray Bill, meaning he was one of the best champions of Sakaar. In the comics, let's just say he's kind of a wannabe Thor. He dresses like him, and yes, he even uses the same weapon as him at times. In fact, Beta Ray Bill was able to wield Mjolnir very early on in the comics after his first fight with Thor. Talk about making a grand entrance. Oh, and his ship is known as the Scuttlebutt. Well, it's actually a sentient ship that was used to create him, but hey, comics are complicated. Scuttlebutt. While we're probably years away from his big screen debut, there's a good chance it happens in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Bill is sometimes an enemy and sometimes a friend of Thor's, and was the first character outside of the Norse pantheon to become worthy of wielding Mjolnir. So we might see this happen in the MCU sometime in Phase 4. Jane Foster. Jane Foster was Thor's love interest in his first film, and they spent some time in the Dark World as well before they took a break and later called it quits. We feel bad for Thor because it clearly wasn't mutual. Sorry, bud. Anyway, in the comics, Jane Foster actually becomes Thor, which of course means she got to wield Mjolnir. It wasn't all a happy story though. Jane was diagnosed with cancer, and when Thor lost Mjolnir in a fight against Nick Fury, the weapon telepathically sought out Jane. She ended up being worthy of the weapon, becoming the new Thor. In the MCU, she's gone to Asgard before to get treated for her ether infection, but there's nothing indicating that she's going to be the next Thor. Still, she's one of the world's leading astrophysicists, and if she could fall in love with someone who's worthy of lifting Mjolnir, who's to say she can't eventually do so herself? That being said, she's barely been mentioned since Phase 3, other than that surprise cameo in Endgame. Supposedly, this is all because Natalie Portman was furious when they decided to replace Thor the Dark World director Patty Jenkins with Alan Taylor, but Portman has hinted at a possible return, so who knows? Spider-Man. Now it's time for the man of the hour, Spider-Man. He's the talk of the town right now, and has got everyone who saw Peter Parker's face on the big screen outside of MSG buzzing. While everyone may think that Spider-Man is a villain who must really hate Europe, we know who the real Spider-Man is. There's a reason why he's called the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and not a menace to society Spider-Man. First of all, it just sounds better, and second of all, he's a guy who puts everyone first. He'll do whatever it takes to keep the people of the world safe at all costs, even if it means putting himself in a terrible position where he could literally be torn in half. Peter Parker is an incredibly honorable and smart kid who truly feels guilty when he lets the people who care about him down. It's one of the main reasons why he's a hero in the first place. While the general public of the MCU may think Spider-Man is anything but worthy enough to wield Mjolnir, we know Peter Parker, and we're sure he'd be able to lift it up when given the chance. If he can't right now, then he'll be able to very, very soon. Valkyrie. While only appearing in 2 movies so far, Valkyrie has one of the most underrated character arcs out of anyone in the MCU, and that's saying something. While she was hilarious in Ragnarok and was a darn good bounty hunter, known as Scrapper 142, who collected only the best combatants for the Grandmaster's Contest of Champions on Sakaar, she struggled with plenty of personal issues. As you can tell by her, shall we say, interesting grand entrance in Ragnarok, she had a little bit of a drinking problem because she just couldn't get over losing to Hela in battle. In Endgame, we saw a much more cheerful and upbeat Valkyrie, who's in charge of keeping New Asgard in order, while Thor's chilling with Korg and Meek playing Fortnite and screaming at 10-year-olds online. Yeah, while Valkyrie got better, Thor got a lot worse. There are some rumors swirling about Valkyrie becoming the new Thor, while the current Thor is preoccupied in outer space, and honestly, we're all for it. Thor got his mojo back with the Guardians of the Galaxy and with a handshake, named Valkyrie the Queen of New Asgard. If Valkyrie becomes Thor and joins the Avengers, that's definitely something we could get behind. In fact, just thinking about it, it's getting us excited. Black Panther. When we first met T'Challa, we learned that he was an old-school guy who stayed true to the traditions of his culture. The country of Wakanda has always kept a secret from the outside world, and he had no intention of changing that. While everyone thought it was a third-world African country, it was actually the most advanced country on the planet, but they had kept to themselves. While Eric Killmonger had the right idea, wanting to take the truth about Wakanda public, since his advanced medicine and technology could help the world at large, he went about it in the wrong way, as most villains do. That being said, if it wasn't for Killmonger, T'Challa would have kept Wakanda hidden from the rest of the world. Even though Killmonger was a villain, he wasn't pure evil like most of them, and Black Panther learned a thing or two from him that made him a better person. A person who'd established the Wakandan International Outreach Center, run by Nakia and Shuri. We think all of this makes him more than worthy of lifting Mjolnir. Can you just imagine the Black Panther's badass suit and abilities to go along with the power of Mjolnir? He'd be unstoppable. Captain Marvel. Speaking of unstoppable characters, let's talk about Captain Marvel. You know, the superhero so strong she can punch through entire spaceships. She's done it more than once too, just in case it wasn't already impressive enough. While Carol Danvers doesn't necessarily put saving the Earth at the top of her to-do list, that doesn't mean she's a bad person. Sure, it's our planet, but as she so eloquently put it, there are plenty of other planets out there too, and Earth already has enough heroes. While we have significantly less Earthbound heroes post-Endgame, she's still telling the truth. In her standalone movie, she helped the Skrulls find a new homeworld after we were led to believe that they were the bad guys at first. Well, after the Far From Home post-credit scene, we're still not sure if they're the good guys, but that's beside the point. She did what was right and saved the Skrulls from extinction. Whether it'll come back to bite her in the butt, who knows, but it was an honorable thing. Something that'd make her worthy of wielding a weapon like Mjolnir. Not like she'd need it anyway. We feel like she's powerful enough without a weapon, to be honest. Professor Hulk. If you noticed, we specified that we're talking about Professor Hulk here, not regular Hulk. Can you imagine the smashing everything in sight Hulk wielding Mjolnir? That'd be absolutely terrible for whoever he has his sights on. There'd be no way they'd be able to live to tell the tale, and he'd probably cause billions of dollars in damages. It wouldn't be a good thing for everyone, but Professor Hulk is much more level-headed. He may not be as strong as the regular Hulk is in full rage mode, but he's still got most of his brawn and Bruce Banner's brains. He's one heck of a powerful being, but one who can control himself and won't fly off the handle at a moment's notice. If you watched the re-release of Avengers Endgame, then you stuck around for the 6 minutes of never-before-seen footage. One of these scenes involved the Hulk using a satellite dish to save some people from a burning building because that's what heroes do. Clearly, he's now able to do more heroic things as Professor Hulk since Bruce Banner's in full control. Now that he could be a true hero, there's no reason why Professor Hulk wouldn't be worthy of lifting Mjolnir, unless the Hammer just can't get over what happened in Johannesburg. Yeah, that was ugly. Storm. While we have yet to see Storm make her MCU debut and grace our movie screens with her presence, it could definitely happen sometime soon with the whole Disney-Fox merger that we're sure you've heard enough of by now. Yeah, we've only mentioned it a few times on our videos. Just a few. Anyway, Storm has been known as the Goddess of Thunder in the comics multiple times. Yes, that's right. The X-Men's African weather goddess has wielded Mjolnir and even took on the mantle of Thor. But with like all things comic book related, it didn't go very smoothly. You see, Loki, always up to something, seduced Storm into thinking she could take over from Thor and gave her a fake Mjolnir known as Stormcaster. She'd later break free of Loki's control and abandon Stormcaster and the plan altogether. This made comic book fans wonder if she'd ever be worthy of the actual hammer, and it turns out she was. Thor would later give her Stormcaster once again, but she quickly grabbed Mjolnir and used it to destroy Stormcaster, meaning she was worthy of lifting Mjolnir the whole time. Since Storm can now be introduced in the MCU, who knows? Maybe all this craziness will happen in the movies as well. Groot. I am Groot are the most famous 3 words in the MCU. Well, other than I am Iron Man. Oh wait, that's 4 words. Yeah, our bad. Math is hard. Anyway, our alpha math aside, the first iteration of Groot was one of the kindest souls we've ever seen in the MCU. At the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, he put his life on the line to save his friends, extending his branches to keep them safe before saying, "We are Groot." Wow, he now has a 4-word vocabulary. Seriously though, this was an awesome moment and showed that Groot is more than just a giant butt-kicking tree person. He was able to feel all the feels and sacrificed himself to save his friends. While the Groot we currently have in the MCU is technically not the same one from the first Guardians movie, he still flashed some heroics when he broke off a piece of his arm to be used as Stormbreaker's handle in Infinity War. Was this foreshadowing that he could one day hold Mjolnir? Only time will tell, but we definitely think Groot is worthy. Loki. Loki thrives on chaos. After all, he's known as the god of mischief for a reason. There's nothing he can't or won't do to get what he wants, even if it means putting his brother in harm's way. Siblings, eh? While he's toned it down ever since he got rid of the influence of the Mind Stone, he can be a bit of a shady character at times. He also just can't stay down. We thought we lost him in the movie Thor, but he came back. We thought we lost him in Infinity War, but we saw him escape with the Tesseract in Endgame, meaning he's probably alive in some alternate timeline. While Loki might not be the first character who comes to mind when you think who's worthy enough to wield Mjolnir, he's done so in the comics. In the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline, Loki and Thor changed places, meaning Loki was the hero who could wield Mjolnir. It'd be nice to see Thor pass the hammer down to his brother, but since he's no longer in the main timeline, it probably won't ever happen in the MCU. If you love movies just as much as we do, then make sure to check out our good friends over at Screen Rant. They met 15 unworthy Marvel characters who lifted Mjolnir. Give it a watch. We promise you won't regret it. And those are just some of the Marvel characters who would be the most worthy of wielding Mjolnir. What do you think? Do you agree with this list? Are there any characters we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos. Thanks for watching.